folks. Today I am joined by Matthew Vaughn, director of films such as Layer Cake, X-Men First Class, Kingsman, and his new movie Argylle, which hits theaters on February 2nd. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you for having me.
First and most importantly, how are you feeling about the Chelsea match tomorrow? You're a blue, I'm a red. It's a big one.
Well, it's the precursor, should we say, or to then the cup final on the 25th as well.
Let's
So,
hope for some goals this time, huh? Because those have been some
uh,
snoozers the last few years.
yeah, Chelsea, we got our tail up at last.
Yeah.
I Liverpool are my second team in life. So when I was really young, I did support Liverpool
I was gonna say
because
that's a tough
yeah,
sell.
yeah, because in the 70s they were winning everything. So when you're young, I want to support the team that wins everything. And then someone said to me, but you don't live in Liverpool. You never watch them. You live in Chelsea. You should just support your local team. So I switched. And from then on, I've been a Chelsea fan. I admire Liverpool. They played the most beautiful football. I'm quite relieved that Klopp's going. Maybe gives us all a chance.
That makes one of us.
He's amazing, amazing. And
Are you going to Wembley?
if I'm in London, I'm definitely going to be there.
Awesome, awesome. All right,
Yeah.
enough about the football. So what's your beef with the spy genre? Kingsman is a riff on James Bond. Argylle clearly pokes its fun at the genre too. I don't think you have a beef with it. That's more of a joke. I think that you're simply trying to modernize and update what is a usually quite tradition and old school genre. So I'm just curious your connection and relationship with this genre and the way that you like to approach it.
Well, as you said, I love the world of espionage, full stop. And I love to play with it. And, and with this movie, I love the idea of sort of reinventing the tropes that I've been guilty of creating and being part of. So doing a movie which is half of it fictional, over the top super spies, and the other half what real life spies would be like in the same situation. I thought, wow, what a fun play box to play in. So that's why I did this one.
Bryce Dallas Howard is your star, but she's also quite an accomplished action director in her own right with her work on the Star Wars stuff. What was it like
Thank
having
you.
your lead also be somebody who understands your part of the job? And did it allow you to collaborate more than you have with some of your stars in the past?
I love it. I mean, on The King's Man, Ray Fiennes is a very accomplished director.
Okay.
So it actually it makes it easier because you can say I'm doing this and that, and they understand it immediately. And sometimes they'll spot something that I've missed as well. And Bryce is like a hawk looking at everything and making sure everything's perfect as well. So we were like kindred spirits and pushing each other and protecting each other. So it was very enjoyable.
Speaking of your other lead, Sam Rockwell, who is just the ultimate, oh, he's in this? Fuck yeah, guy. Tell me
Yeah.
about the sort of light bulb aha of turning him into an action star. I know he once did that sort of action rom-com with Anna Kendrick, I think, but this is an entirely new level for him. So were there any sort of unexpected action stars that you had thought of besides him, or was it always Sam?
Well, action stars beside, if you name an action star like him. So
Well, right, I'm saying like somebody that you
yeah.
wouldn't expect.
No, that was the whole point, is I needed the antithesis of Henry Cavill, Sam Rockwell. When we're doing press together and they're standing there and giggling, going, that if people say, "What's the movie?" I went, "Hey, you guys stand there. This is the movie." Okay.
Yeah.
And I knew Sam when I work on movies, I try to think of legends, right? So that as an inspiration and for me, Argylle slash Henry Cavill was 50% Connery, 50% Moore. Roger Moore and Sean Connery molded together, and Aidan Wilde, which is Rockwell. I said, look, I need 50 to 60% Gene Wilder, and then 20% Bill Murray, and 20% Steve McQueen.
Yeah, because he does the kick-ass stuff well. Like you totally buy it. I know that it's supposed to be a bit of a subversion, but both the long-haired, scraggly version and the clean-cut guy at the end. He looks jacked in the nice bright shirt.
Yeah,
I'm like, I buy both versions of this
yeah,
guy.
exactly. Well, he's meant to. The fun about this is the super spy and the non-super spy. They have the same destination, and they're going to get there. They just take a different path, shall we say? And
Yeah.
he can navigate all paths.
So another one of your leads, Bryan Cranston, like I imagine for many men my age and just alive at large, is one of my favorite actors of all time. I'd love to just give you the floor to talk about your experience with him and if there's anything that he brought to the role that made you think, ah, that is why we paid Bryan Cranston.
Brian and Sam Jackson are very similar beasts that they will elevate anything that comes out of their mouths.
Yeah.
They're both extremely intelligent and masters of their art. I mean, masters. And like, for example, the shotgun scene, half of that was he was improvising, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I got this idea, and I'm going to turn around and walk off and
Oh,
then
that's
shoot him."
awesome.
And I was like, "Yeah, okay, do it." Yeah, Brian, playing a villain can sometimes be predictable and boring, I think. But he made it unpredictable and exciting.
Well, I do want to say I enjoyed the meta-ness, which is a huge part of this film, of
Yeah,
casting Brian and Catherine as evil parents, given their roles in Home Alone and Malcolm, as sort of like the epitome of like typical Americana mom and dad.
yeah,
Are you a Breaking Bad fan? Is that a dumb thing to ask?
yeah. Yes and yes.
Uh,
So yes.
Anthony Hopkins once famously wrote Brian to praise him for his work on that show. Did you nerd out with him at all about his work on it?
I didn't, because I think when an actor's in a role and you're doing
Mm,
something new, to discuss too much, what from the past and stuff, I think I think it can cloud things.
for sure.
I also think when you're an actor, having a fanboy direct you is probably a little bit scary. So the times, like, even happened on Kingsman when I looked through the camera, the first one, and I saw Mark Hamill, and I was like, I'm fucking directing Luke Skywalker. And then I went, no, no, play it cool, play it cool. Don't jump around with excitement. So, as you have to sort of have a facade of calmness when you direct. So no matter how, I mean, because it is, directing, you've got all these people relying on you to get the job done. So you got to lead. And so, afterwards we'd go out he has a very nice mezcal, and we'd go out, yeah, and we'd chat, and we'd talk about stories of filmmaking as well, and because he's seen it all and done it all, and it was, I mean, a real privilege working with him.
Yeah, I mean, the casting of your films is incredible, and like you said, to draw the line between him and Sam, to have those two in the same film is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Argylle has a fantastic set piece on a train, which has always been one of my favorite locales for a set piece. How does that, like, how do you go about in reinventing a traditional sort of staging? And are there any of your influences that can be found in this scene?
Well, this one I knew would be unique because we had the blinking, so you get to see the same action sequence twice through a different interpretation by the actors or the characters for how to fight. So I knew that would give it an edge that no one's, well, I haven't seen it before. Maybe you have in another movie, but I haven't yet. So I knew that would make it different, and also be able to put some humor into it, whether it's the cat or the girl suddenly, giving him a kiss, and playing with the sort of the cliches of a super spy versus a scruffy spy, let's call him. I think that was what would make it original. Plus, it's not easy shooting on a train because they're quite narrow and confined. I was if I wouldn't have done, if we didn't have the as I said, the two action sequences in one, I probably wouldn't have done a train sequence.
You kind of touch on what I wanted to ask next. A lot of your films, I feel like, have a unique set piece in them. So I'm curious of how that creative process starts for you and how you come up with these without relying too much on CG, which is something that audiences are becoming increasingly sensitive to.
So There's a longer question answer to this question than it should be, so I'll try and edit myself for a second before I answer it. Um, I think the new future of movie making is no CG. That I think CG is for when you have, if you cannot do it, like I'm
Well,
not
that's how it
allowed.
started.
Yeah, that's what, and those last. The non-CG movies don't age. Like even I remember watching Beverly Hills Cop with my son, and the truck sequence, and he's like, "My God, that looks like they did it for real." I went, "They did." And Spy Love Me. Oh my God, yes, they skied off a cliff with a parachute. So this movie has a lot more CG in it than I would have liked it to have, purely because we just shot this at the end of lockdown, so we weren't allowed to travel. And there's certain things you're not allowed to throw cats off buildings. So there are things. So my rule from now on will be only if there is no other way to do it. I will do it. And actually, you said you were watching X-Men First Class, but there was a sequence in there. I don't know how far you got into it, but it was in the beginning when Shaw is in his office, and little Magneto, he crushes a filing cabinet, and then the whole thing comes alive. That was all done in camera, right? There was no CG, and it was all set up, and the guy and the special effects gentleman said, yeah, that's going to crash. And then I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I was thinking, it'll probably look a little bit hokey, and we're going to fix it all CG. And we're in action. And at the end of the take, Kevin Bacon turned around and went, "What the fuck just happened?" And we were all like, "Oh my God." I mean, seeing
I
the
mean,
it
you
was
know,
all in camera, that. And I remember we were like, "Oh my God. Oh
and
my
your
God."
and your point to stuff that scene stands the test of time as one of the iconic X-Men scene.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool to know. All right. Spoiler section. Don't worry, this is not going to come out until the film does, so you are free to discuss it if you wish, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So connecting to the Kingsman franchise, can you clarify that post-credit scene for me? Is the next Kingsman movie about a young Argylle? Is book one the movie a Kingsman crossover? What's going on here exactly?
Well, I don't want to tempt fate, so I will be a little bit. And also, if I gave you the punchline to a joke before the setup, it doesn't really work very well. So, what I would say is the only clue I'd give you is Argyle wears very beautifully made tailored suits.
Okay.
So, if you're going to have the world's best tailored suits, where would you go?
I want to give you props for that, man, because you're just like, you know what? You're like, you guys want franchises? Fine. I'll do it for you. You
Yeah,
want stuff to cross over? Sure, let's do it. But it feels unique to you. Like, so I feel like where a lot of people might have a cynical view of that, being like, oh, of course it crossed over. Me just being a fan of this shit, I was like, of course. I
yeah,
in the third act where there's that colorful fight scene in like a porcelain white hallway of a secret villain hideaway, I'm like, this guy's a smart man. There is no way that there are these visual cues and homages without these connecting some way or some way, shape, or form. So there was a part of me that felt that, but then when you just went for it, I was like, hell yeah, man, I'm in. Um,
mm.
Speaking of the Kingsman franchise, you've had Colin Firth, you've had Ray Fiennes, you've had Mark Strong. Who is the next beloved, acclaimed British actor born between the years 1960 and 1965 that you're hoping to cast next? Please never stop. It is my favorite part of these films.
They have to be born between the years 60 and 65.
That's just what you're doing, man. I'm just connecting
Um,
the dots. No,
God,
but
probably.
seriously, do you have someone
What
in
what
mind?
year was Hugh Grant born in? Out
There
of
you go. There you
interest,
go.
that will be yeah, there is. I mean, the next Kingsman is the conclusion of the Eggsy and Harry story. And there are some surprising new characters that we are introducing. The only problem is Taron's become so bloody successful, it's finding time in his diary now
Well,
to
it's
squeeze it
partly
in.
your fault because you helped them make Tetris.
Well, Tetris, Rocket Man, and the Kingsman,
Yeah.
and Eddie the Eagle. I mean, boy,
No, of course.
we've done more together than I just
I actually
realized.
spoke to Dexter this past year. Great guy.
Yeah, lovely. I mean, great actor as well.
Yeah, yeah. He told me this amazing story about his work on Elephant Man and how Lynch like picked some old man off the streets of London because he likes the way that he walked by with his dog, and he was
Wow.
like, "Get a costume on this guy. Do you want to be in a film?" And the bloke was like, "What do you know?" Just curmudgeonly said, "What are you talking about, a movie?" But he got him in
Really?
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Really,
Wow.
really cool story.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, the Freebird scene is probably one of the most beloved action scenes of my whole life. And not just me, film fans at large. Was there a particular moment where you were like, holy shit, man, I've got an all-timer here?
Well, no, actually, it's the opposite because that was the first thing we shot on Kingsman. Yeah.
Oh!
And by the way, the train sequence was the first thing we shot on Argylle.
But that's kind of good. You get it done with,
Yeah.
and then it's all
No, I say if
downhill
you
from there.
start with a tricky big scene, it just blows, clears the pipes, and we're in it, and you got to concentrate. And we're also not exhausted, so we got a chance of maybe making it work. But the thing about the church sequence, the studio were begging me to cut it 3 days before the film came out. So they were all very worried about it. And when a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't have this sequence in a movie, we're all, people's, opinion is, creative opinion is everyone's right and everybody's wrong. There's no, what some people love, other people hate, but it is what it is. That's art. And a lot of people were telling me you can't have the church sequence. So there was a moment I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put it in the movie. But in the end, I went, nah, I really like it. I'm keeping it in.
No
Same
offense.
thing by the way, same with this movie. A lot of people told me to cut out the
terrible notes. I'm sorry to them.
No. Well, I know that's why it's hard, but I had a lot of people trying to persuade me to cut out the oil skating in Argylle.
Yeah. All the stuff that makes your films new and fun. Let's get him out of there. Tell me about getting Colin Firth to say the line, "I'm a Catholic whore currently in Congress out of wedlock with my black Jewish boyfriend who works in a military abortion clinic." And the way he nails, "So hail Satan and have a lovely day, madam." Just like, come on, man. That's so good.
So hail Satan and have a lovely afternoon, madam.
That's fine, Colin Firth. I mean, the idea that, to say that with such a dry English wit. That Jane Goldman wrote that line. I wish I could say, I don't think I could write it in such a poetic manner as she could. And definitely couldn't say it as well.
All right. What do we got next here? X-Men. You obviously have a connection to them, having made one of the best films in the franchise while also having a hand in writing the other. I was just wondering if there's what you think about the impending arrival of them in the MCU and how you think characters as iconic as them should be deployed in this new age. Because of what they stood for at the start and what the times were now.
Ironically, what they stood for in the start couldn't be more relevant to the modern times.
Exactly.
So I hope whoever makes the new X-Men, that they do it in the spirit of reflecting the times of division and the times which we have now. There's different ways of solving problems, which I think X-Men addressed brilliantly. The few snippets that I know about Deadpool and Wolverine is unbelievable, and I think they are. I think Deadpool versus Wolverine or Wolverine versus Deadpool. I'm sure that argument's happening as we speak between Ryan and Hugh. What it should be
between Ryan and Hugh or the suits.
Yeah, but no, I would say I know that's going to be the what are those paddles? What are they called? When you have
the CPR thingies,
yeah, whatever. That's going to be the jolt to the Marvel universe is about to have a jolt of them, and it's going to bring that body back to life.
Wow!
And then I think if they follow that up with the new X-Men movie, and a
hell of a tease.
Yeah, look, I wish I'm not involved.
You on their books, Matthew? Yeah, you secretly. No, I'm just kidding with you.
No, but the thing is, I'm a genuine fan of the X-Men movies.
No,
so
all
I want is for the X-Men movies to be as good as they should be, and I think Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are about to save the whole Marvel universe.
Are there any particular X-Men that you're excited to see on the big screen, whether it be again or for the first time?
I'm intrigued how, and I love Hugh as Wolverine. absolutely love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine.
And you work close with Mark. Logan is just an all-timer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but for me, the new Wolverine will be the thing I'll be very intrigued about, and whether it goes more to the shorter,
Are you
stockier.
trying to pitch your friend Taron here, or what?
Taron could nail it. I don't know, if he wanted. But yeah, that would be the character. I think the new interpretation, because Hugh Jackman has so made Wolverine himself that hard shoes to fill. So if I was making the movie, I'd make them smaller shoes.
I can't believe I'm going to be the first one to get you on this, but you have categorized yourself as a, quote, Superman nut. Supergirl is currently trying to find a director over at Warner Bros. Any interest in that one?
Well, it's funny you say that. I'm a huge fan of Millie Alcock.
Oh,
Huge
there you
fan.
go.
Yeah, huge fan. I even met with her about this other project we're working on, and
Cosmic.
she turned me down, so which was sad. Which was
Maybe this is why, though.
maybe this is why. She's a fabulous actress, fabulous actress. So but then again, I do find it very weird if they haven't got a director. That surprised me because you shouldn't cast a movie. The director should be casting the movie. So that I don't understand who cast it if there isn't a director. That's weird.
So is that a plead the fifth type thing just to try to nail you down here?
No. Normally, I was asked about doing The Flash and way back, but I said I'd only do it if I can recast. Not because I think Ezra Miller's brilliant, but if I'm directing a superhero film, I want my own new superheroes. So, but Millie Alcock, I would have probably put forward for it if I was directing. So, I hadn't considered it. Never say never. I'm a big fan of James Gunn and Safran, so yeah, I wouldn't. I would consider it.
And I mean, I know that they said that they would do Elseworlds type stuff. I didn't even write this down. Like, are you a Red Sun guy? Like, is that an approach you would try to take?
I thought Red Sun was one of the cleverest comics I'd ever read, and again, with the current world we're living in,
exactly,
suddenly it's become a lot more relevant because ignorance causes more issues, and I think the more we learn about Russia and the Russian history, wow, could you imagine? Remaking Red Sun with Henry Cavill?
Cha-ching! I don't know what you want me to say here, man. Like, exactly. Now we're cooking with gas. I love that look on your face.
No, because that got me. That would be an interesting movie.
That would. Oh man, you would be kicking the hornet's nest with that one, to say the least, though. I want to reach way back. Man, there's so much stuff that I could ask you here, but I would be so disappointed with myself if I did not ask you about Snatch. I don't know how widely known this is. You produced that film. I've got to ask about Brad Pitt on my side of the pond, and I'm sure yours. He is just the greatest. Tell me about being able to land him and seeing him in character for that first time and so on.
Well, ironically, Brad called Guy up, right? Instead of, and then we had this surreal moment where we went to meet Brad in his manager's office. And he said, we're like, can we believe this? And then Brad was like, I want to do whatever you're doing. And then Guy was like, well, we're doing this thing, and there's a thing called, and Mickey, and he started acting out what Mickey would be. And Brad just went, great, I'm in. And then we left. And I was like, I remember Guy and I going, is this for real? Is this really happening? We're doing another little small movie, and we now have Brad Pitt playing an Irish bare-knuckled boxer. So that was pretty crazy. But what was really crazy is the day before filming, Brad pulled out. And I ended up sitting in a pub with him very, very late with a lot of Guinness, being drunk, persuading him not to leave because he was worried he wouldn't get the accent right.
Get way back.
Can't really understand much of what is being said.
You tell me. Come about a cataract.
But he did. And that's what was phenomenal about Brad. He has such humility and such a desire to do things properly. Anyway, he said yes. I don't know whether he was so drunk when he said yes, but he did say yes.
I was going to say, did he find the voice that night by just being so drunk? He's like, oh, I got it now.
He already had it, but it was a pretty extreme voice, what he went. I mean, it was so extreme that when we showed the first cut to the studio, I had the chairman of the studio saying, you need to subtitle him and revoice him. And we're like, no, but that's the joke. You're not meant to understand him. And they were like, we are not releasing a Brad Pitt movie where you can't understand a word he says. And we're like,
And
well,
now
luckily-
that's like what Snatch is known for. It's like Brad Pitt's iconic voice. Good God. Hey, Matthew, I'm going to say it's a good thing that you have pushed back on notes along the way throughout your
sadly,
career.
I've spent all my life pushing back on notes. But
Well, it is paid off well, sir. Your films are so fun. You make movies for theaters, which, as you say, like, because you think that the future of film is no CG. I hope that we're going back in that sense in terms of seeing movies in theaters, which is what you do well. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you as well.
Cheers, Matthew.
Okay.